After Martin Armstrong fucking said that, all the dots fucking connected instantly. I was like, oh dear fucking God. Like, me and Tom basically had the same fucking reaction as I'm watching the video. We're like, wait, oh my God, holy shit.
All right, we're live.
Okay, so let me just preface this context. I'm watching Capital Cosm. You got Capital Cosm. I forget the guy's name off the top of my head. You've got Martin Armstrong, who is an economist slash fund manager. You've got Alex Craner, who he writes for Zero Hedge, but he's also like one of the premier, like, I'm going to find out where the dirty laundry is. He's a great investigative journalist. And then you have Tom Luongo, which we all know Tom, fucking King Schizo himself, the premier of fuck you and get bent land. So great fucking lineup overall. Martin Armstrong, every time I hear him speak, I'm fucking blown away because it's like, holy shit. This guy, he's one of those guys who just knows what the fuck he's talking about. So in the podcast, Martin Armstrong says something along the lines of that the German chancellor, back when they were getting the EU and the Euro and all that shit set up, the German chancellor did not put the adoption of the Euro up to vote. The people of Germany did not get to vote on the adoption of the Euro. No. It was adopted by fucking executive order. Now, here's why this is fucking important. Because Germany is the financial fucking foundation of the Euro. Without Germany, the Euro does not exist. Period. End of fucking story. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go straight to fucking jail.
Warhound.
Yes.
Recording. F-bombs.
No, F-bombs. The only things that are a problem are slurs, and even those I can just bleep out.
Yeah, honestly speaking, I didn't. Like, first off, Mitch, you've heard me fucking play fucking UAD. You know my videos.
Yes, every time I open my fucking mouth, I'm sure you guys shudder.
Yeah.
Oh, you tremble at the sound of my female voice.
Just concerned about YouTube possibly deleting.
I am not concerned about YouTube. Fuck YouTube. I'm not concerned about anything or anybody. Fuck y'all.
Well, considering
you are all my hosts.
Well, considering Bard's inability here lately to censor nigger, kite, faggot, and wop.
Stop her! Shut the fuck. Anyway,
also nigger,
right.
don't forget that.
I'll just note that down to censor around 3 minutes in.
Note that down.
Note yourself, delete
I
entire
love
intro.
fucking
oh
I
my
love
God.
fucking with you.
Anyways, shut up, everybody. Anyways, okay, getting back to my fucking point. So we literally have a situation where the Euro is hinged on one fucking point. It is literally the weakest door hinge in the fucking world. There is a single bolt holding that bitch into the structure, and it is literally that executive order. The fact that a single executive order is all that the Euro hinges on, period in a story, signifies one important thing. This is why AfD is not allowed to have the reins of power in Germany, because AfD would rescind that fucking executive order and it completely guts the Euro system. Full stop. And it puts everything into such fucking perspective that this horrid piece of shit is literally tied down by a single fucking thing. This is how fucking disastrous the entirety of Europe is. That it's literally hinged on one thing. And it's just fucking astounding. It's just astounding. It's like, holy crap, this puts everything into a full-blown context that I did not fucking realize before, because I didn't know that. Like, when Martin Armstrong said that, I'm like, wait, what? Like, I was blown away. I was like, holy shit. Like, literally heard that in the podcast, had the same reaction as Tom on the fucking panel, and then proceeded to summon you guys. Like, that's literally the order of events here. So yeah, it's mind blowing from my perspective, because that's how fragile the EU is. Like, we knew the EU was fragile. We knew it was teetering, but we didn't. I don't think any of us realized that it's literally over the edge, and the only thing that's fucking counterbalancing it is some dude literally holding on to the edge, fucking leaning on it to keep it from fucking falling. That's literally the only thing keeping it up. So, yeah, I'm just,
And now
And then-
there's a possibility that Trump may be delivering another body blow to Europe tonight in that speech.
oh, dude. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
As in saying, okay, we're tired of the shenanigans. We're done with NATO.
And I absolutely hope that's exactly what's going to fucking happen. I hope that he does this really passionate, just, drawn out, like, 45-minute speech and everything, and then, like, the last 15 minutes, he just tears into NATO so fucking hard, and then straight up says, effective immediately, the United States is withdrawing from NATO. Like, I just hope that fucking happens. I'm sitting here and I'm just like, yes, delicious. It's like, fuck, dude, let's go.
Well, the question is, which I've heard raised on a couple channels tonight, is that if that was a treaty for us joining NATO, it was approved by Congress, would he have to go through Congress to get approval to withdraw from said treaty?
Well, that's the thing, is he doesn't have to. Let's look it up. Is the U.S. bound by that treaty? Because if so, then yes, he would have to go through Congress to get approval to remove us. But here's the thing, is depending on the reasoning that he uses, he can make that move unilaterally without Congress's approval. Because at the end of the day, he can straight up be like, okay, look, they're not meeting their obligations under the treaty. Why should we continue paying their obligations? Like, he could, like, that is a solid reasoning. If you're not going to meet your obligations, then fuck it, we're not going to be a part of this.
Or it could simply just say, okay, you're not meeting your obligations, neither will we, and just zero out all funding for NATO.
I hate to pee in your wheeze, but check the side chat.
All right, hold on, I'm
Oh, so they tried to Trump proof.
Unfortunately, that seems to be the case.
2/3 of the Senate, which they knew which way the Senate was going to be divided.
Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that is just bullshit. That is just
Hold
straight
on,
up
I apologize. I'm looking
bullshit.
stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who's to say that since they have the majority in the House and the Senate now, that the next NDAA, they couldn't repeal that little provision?
In theory, they could.
But hold on, isn't Donald Trump the commander-in-chief?
Yes.
So then, couldn't he sidestep that by, say, withdrawing military personnel and equipment from Europe?
Yes.
Well, technically, yes. He could say, well, yes, we're still part of NATO, and we might still have to give y'all money, but that doesn't mean we have to deploy our troops and equipment in Europe or maintain any bases there.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably going to be what his workaround's going to be.
But it seems like the most direct approach would be in the 2025 NDAA, being that Republicans have majority in the House and the Senate, that they could simply repeal that little provision.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I would have to sit down and actually look further. Hold on, let me. Okay, so if they went and put that into the NDAA, then honestly speaking, at that point in time, like, yeah, Trump just says, okay, you're not meeting your obligations, we're no longer paying in.
Hmm.
And then we start withdrawing forces. We don't have to withdraw from the treaty, but it doesn't mean we need to maintain forces.
Right.
It doesn't mean we need to maintain funding.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yes, our troops are still part of NATO. The fact that they're deployed in El Paso, Texas, guarding the border, doesn't mean they still aren't NATO troops. But considering how nervous the Europeans are about us potentially leaving NATO, that speaks to me that they know it is possible for us to leave NATO.
Yes.
well, and that's the thing, is that if we just refuse to abide by the treaty, and the commander-in-chief can do that, then at that point in time, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, that's the thing, is treaties across the board, the only way that they are held up is if the members actually abide by them. And Trump has plenty of impetus to be like, you guys aren't upholding your side of the bargain, so why should we?
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the other little implicit threat. Remember, Article 5 is not ironclad.
Yep.
As far as if one
refused to
member
honor
gets,
it.
you know,
Well, okay.
if
So
one
remember,
member gets
here's the thing about Article 5. You want to know how Article 5 isn't ironclad in the current context that they keep talking about?
because go ahead.
Article 5 refers to territory. It doesn't refer to troops. It refers to territory. So if they put NATO troops in Ukraine, for example, Article 5 does not apply. Period, end of story. Those troops can get absolutely fucking bushwhacked, and there's nothing that they can do to activate Article 5. Which is why they were talking about redrafting Article 5 in order to include military operations. So Article 5 is already significantly limited in that regard, which is why they're so hell-bent on getting Ukraine into NATO, because then they can activate Article 5. That's why they're so hell-bent on it.
Yeah, but even if present form, say even if the RAF went through with their insane little plan start having the Royal Air Force flying combat air patrols over Ukraine from bases in Poland, and Russia decided to take out said bases in Poland, the way Article 5 is written, it still would not be an ironclad requirement for the United States to assist them. It's basically, because, they allowed for different variety of circumstances to where all the member states might not be in a position to be able to join into fighting.
Well, not even just that, but also there's the factor that what if NATO members go rogue? For example, look at Turkey. Turkey is a NATO member. And yet, Turkey has had fighting on their border for the better part of 10 years now. And yet, Article 5 does not apply to that. Because at the end of the day, that was a unilateral move by Turkey to initiate combat operations in that region. And so, if a couple fucking NATO members get together and they're like, oh, we're going to go do this, the U.S. can literally be like, okay, have fun. Like, good luck, have fun.
Because it was not a joint decision by all the members of NATO to join in, Article 5 would be null and void.
Yep. And then Poland starts eating fucking Calibras and fucking Orezhniks all fucking day. And it'll be fucking hilarious.
Don't threaten me with a good time. In particular, that aegis frickin' anti-missile base we set up.
No, and that's the fucking wonderful part about this. Okay, do we want to cover this topic?
Which
do we want to cover the topic that Stoner recommended earlier in the week? Do we want to go over this fucking whole, nonsensical bullshit that these fuckers try to play out?
Sure.
Okay, so there's this whole idea that, because the Europeans helped us out in Iraq and Afghanistan, we owe them for helping to help them in Ukraine. Let me give a little context to these idiots. And I say idiots explicitly because clearly you're just mentally fucking deficient. The fact of the matter is that Iraq and Afghanistan have more to do with the Europeans than it did the United States. Because if you look at the context of Iraq, for example, Iraq was literally a nothing burger until they seized Kuwait. Now, for those who might not know, Kuwait was a British port of call. In all its totality, when it came to U.S. interests, in the case of Iraq and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and all that bullshit, honestly speaking, we didn't really have a fucking interest. But where does Europe, and particularly the UK, get a shit ton of their fucking oil from? They get it from the Middle East. Now, yes, the US, back in the day, heavily reliant on the Middle Eastern oil trade. Heavily reliant. But not because we couldn't produce it here, but because we had been fucking forced to price oil and do all of our oil shit based on Brent crude. The Brent crude futures contract. Oh, by the way, who controls the Brent crude futures contract? Any guesses?
The UK?
Yep. City of fucking London, ladies and gentlemen.
Of course.
So at the end of the fucking day, when it comes to Iraq, when it came to Kuwait, honestly speaking, I sit back and I'm like, yeah, the U.S. government was fucking retarded back then and fully owned by the British, and fully and by subsidy owned by the fucking, or subsidiary owned by the Europeans. And I use the term Europeans to specifically refer to the EU. So then you've got the second war in Iraq, which political pressures, all the bullshit that was going on. Oh my God, we signed a peace treaty with Hitler and all that fucking pinko bullshit. Fucking just full blown fucking, oh, we're gonna go to war again just so we can fucking get people off our backs because we signed a fucking peace treaty with this guy. Like, that's literally all Iraq 2.0 was. That's all it was. It was literally political pressures had finally built up enough that fucking George W. Bush just didn't want to fucking deal with it. Fuck it, let's go invade fucking Iraq. And then in the case of Afghanistan, who's the number one player in Afghanistan nowadays? Anybody know? Who's the number one? Oh, by the way, the Taliban hates them just as much as they fucking hated the Americans, by the way. It's the fucking Chinese. And, oh, wait, who's been beefing with the Chinese for the past fucking 400 years? Oh, that's right. The United Kingdom.
Something opium wars.
Yeah. So no,
the Opium Wars, the Boxer Rebellion, and I'm pretty sure there's a few more others in between.
So, no, Eurofags, we don't fucking owe you a thing. We don't owe you fucking jack shit. We owe you a good old fucking nuclear warhead on your forehead for all the bullshit that you have forced upon the United States of fucking America.
Yeah, two world wars in the past 100 years is quite enough for me. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, fucking don't get me fucking started on us bailing them the fuck out. Yeah, okay, UK. We should have let the Germans have your ass. We should have let you die. At least the Russians aren't bitching. The Russians are sitting there fucking still thanking us for our assistance throughout the entire fucking war.
And notice Trump had the political savvy to remind them when we were allied together and noted their sacrifice defeating Germany in the war.
Yeah.
That's another thing. In contrasting the Russians with the Europeans. The Europeans, they fucking hate us. I mean, constantly talking down to us, talking shit about us, yet the Russians don't. I don't know. Ain't no Russian ever called me a fascist. Ain't no Russian ever called me anything racist. But you Europeans have, though.
Even the British people I've talked to for a brief second always said something about fucking America. And it's always just like, oh, those Americans. Jesus Christ, for a second.
Well, and here's the point. Is at the end of the fucking day, if they want to try to call us in, being like, oh, you owe us, I will literally slap down every goddamn fucking piece of bullshit on the fucking earth. It'd be like, y'all motherfuckers have tried to kill this country on multiple fucking occasions. The UK, the most recent, was the 1924 fucking market scare, which then leads to the market crash of 1929. So go fuck yourself, UK. Because it was Winston fucking Churchill that tried to bottom out the fucking markets in order to be able to default on fucking debts so he didn't have to pay back the Americans. Why, in God's green earth, Congress allowed FDR to lend as much money and materiel to the British as he did, I will never understand. I will never understand. And honestly speaking, I want to fucking go dig all of them up and piss on them. Because they're nothing more than dirty fucking traitors. And mind you, the US could have steamrolled the fucking Germans by ourselves. Mm-hmm. We didn't need the British. We didn't need the French. We didn't need the fucking Poles. We didn't need the fucking Belgians. We didn't need the fucking Dutch. We didn't need any of them. We could have steamrolled Germany by our fucking selves. Oh, I'm going to point out, it wasn't until the Americans showed up in the Pacific that British troops didn't stop fucking dying in droves. I want to mention Burma, motherfuckers. I want to mention Papua New Guinea. I want to mention fucking how Australia was terrified that they were all going to be put to the fucking sword because the Japanese were fucking on a tear. You know what? Honestly speaking, if I could go back in time and meet with fucking Hitler and with fucking, I forget the fucking emperor's name off the top of my head during that time period. What?
Hirohito?
Oh, Hirohito. If I could meet with both of them and be like, hey, look, I know you don't like the Americans too much, but let me just give you a little historical fucking context here because you guys aren't going to win, by the way. Like, just letting you know, you're not going to fucking win. The U.S. boofs the fuck out of you. Like, you lose. Here's the deal. Hey, Hitler, get rid of Goebbels and Himmler. Stop fucking playing into their bullshit because guess what? They're literally poisoning you. They got you on a drug cocktail that literally keeps you fucking fried. Hirohito, listen. You shouldn't be worried about the Americans. You should be worried about the fucking Brits. Fucking conquer the entirety of the fucking Southeast Asia area. We don't care. We don't. Fucking go have fun, bud. Oh, by the way, Singapore, great fucking city. Make sure it's fucking built up like a motherfucker. It's going to make you a shit ton of money later down the line. And then fucking watch as fucking Germany instantly fucking, you know, especially given the fact that at that point in time, if it was 1940, if fucking Hitler gets rid of Goebbels and Himmler, guess what never happens, ladies and gentlemen? Guess what happens? You don't get a bunch of dead Jews. The Jews are saved. Oh, I made a deal with Hitler and saved the Jews because he got rid of the two guys that were the fucking problem. I do love, by the way, just going to say this real quick. I do love that the Israelis focus so much on Hitler and they don't talk about Himmler or Goebbels. I do love it. It's like, oh yeah, great way to obfuscate who the actual problem was because it's easier just to talk about him.
You forget one thing though, Warhound. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was chomping at the bit to have a war with Japan.
Yes, and if
he would have had to have been dealt with too.
If they never attacked, FDR would have never gotten his war. What was FDR going to do? Fucking declare war in Europe on Germany preemptively?
Hell no. Hell no. America was not wanting a war back then.
Exactly. That's the whole point. The anti-war sentiment was so high if it wasn't for the Japanese. And that's the thing. Hirohito, don't attack the U.S. You're literally signing your country's death warrant. Don't do it. And then all of a sudden, the world is ruled by four powers: Germany, Russia, Japan, and the United States. And Europe is a non-fucking issue for the rest of time.
Do you think that they then Germany wouldn't have then tried to invade Russia?
No, because okay. So here's the thing: is would there have been a conflict eventually? Yes, 100%. Absolutely, there would have been a conflict. Something would have fucking popped it off. It would have happened eventually. But if you literally went back and told, like, I would literally tell Hitler, get rid of Himmler, get rid of Goebbels, start trying to get rid of those SS guys because they're a little fucking stupid, like they're fanatical. Use them as shock troops. Literally use them the exact way you should use them. You send them into combat, make sure they die. Make sure they take a few enemies with them first. But make sure they fucking die. And then proceed to start doing this. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have no fucks to give at this point in time. If I have the option of dealing with the fucking with the nationalist socialists or dealing with the goddamn fucking UK right now, I would rather have had to deal with the nationalist socialists in like the 60s or 70s. I would have much preferred that.
So whose idea was it to like attempt to conquer most of Eastern Europe after, after dealing with France, and, who was it that wanted to conquer that for their quote-unquote living space? To, have
okay, so the problem was, and this was the overarching problem, is that the Nationalist Socialists and the Communists, the Bolsheviks, they didn't like each other. Period. In a story. They the deal that they made was one of compromise. Like, it was literally a case of like, we'll kill each other later.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that Germany, being retarded at the time, because they were being, again, you had two people. Like, I'm sorry, if you look at what was going on, you had Himmler and you had Goebbels, and they really, really wanted to do some really shisty shit. And they just wanted to fucking kill people. Those two guys are the epitome of evil, and yet we all get transfixed on Hitler. Like, I'm sorry, I do not care who you are. Hitler was a drugged up fucking maniac by the end of the war. The dude had no idea who the fuck he was as a person, because they had drugged him up. Like, everybody is like, oh, he was on this drug cocktail and he did all this. And I'm like, yeah, who was giving it to him? Like, seriously. Like, let's be fucking frank here. He probably wasn't taking that on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Who was giving it? We could find out that the fucking little bitch that he was so obsessed with turned out to be his fucking handler. It could turn out that she fucking worked for Himmler or for Goebbels, and she was feeding him drugs. Like, honestly speaking, like, are we not going to entertain the fact that maybe the two evil, fucking diabolical motherfuckers didn't fuck around a little bit? Like, seriously? Are we not going to entertain that idea? Or are we just going to obfuscate the entirety to just set transfix on one person? Like, sorry. It's the same thing with the fucking, like, let's take it over the fucking Israelis. The Israelis want to transfix on, oh, we have to defeat Islamists. We have to do this. We have to do that. They love to rail about fucking Iran, but then they immediately start blaming Russia for Iran. And it's like, motherfucker. What? First off, most of the military equipment that the fucking Iranians had from the 60s and 70s was U.S. And then, oh, by the way, the Russians literally sell their shit to fucking everybody. Like, I'm sorry, is there a reason why more countries use T-72s and T-80s than the M1 Abrams? Like, what? Are we gonna be honest about this, you fucking idiots? You fucking lousy sons of bitches. Like, come on. But then they want to fight. They want to blame Russia for fucking Iran. When in reality, if you actually look at who's pulling what strings, you realize really quick the Russians back the reformists. The Russians back the people that want to topple the mullahs. And then the mullahs are being supported by the fucking Chinese, because the Chinese just need to be able to get access through Iran for the Belt and Road Initiative. So they don't give a fuck. They just need the access. And the mullahs are the one in power right now. And because the Belt and Road Initiative is so important to the Chinese, they don't want to fucking regime change the fucking Iranians. But the Russians are not the fucking problem here. It's the fucking Chinese. And even then they start talking all this shit about the fucking Russians, and it's like, okay, you're fucking idiots. You clearly are fucking so deranged it's unfucking real. And then they want to start screaming about, oh, the Americans don't like us. They're like, it's like, yeah, because we're sick and tired of hearing your fucking whiny bullshit. Like, seriously, we're just sick and tired of fucking hearing it. Y'all bitch and whine and cry, and we literally have given you hand over fist. Like, yeah, we make a shit ton of money off of you, but at the same time, that just means the relationship is somewhat reciprocal. But the problem is that then you start fucking offing whole populations of people, which, okay, yeah, I know they're not actually fucking genociding people, but, bear with me for a second. But, you start talking about offing populations of people, and it's like, excuse me, like, most people in the world don't like that shit. Sorry, the Americans aren't the British. The British love that shit. Look what they did in India. The British love their famines and starvation and fucking genocide. They fucking love that shit. They fucking get off to it. But no, like this is the problem. Is like, and to the overarching topic, the U.S. does not owe anybody anything because we've literally given everything to everybody for as long as we fucking have. And it's like, okay, look, you know what? Like, now you're just acting like impetulant children. Go fuck yourself. And then now all of a sudden I'm going to get called an alt history individual who, is, talking about going back in time and shit like that. Yeah, it's fucking fun to imagine, you fucking stupid bastards. Sorry that we have fun here. Fuck you.
There's a reason why alt history fiction is awesome.
Yep.
It's a point to my most favorite alt history writers. Free plug, by the way. Alex Aronson and D.A.
Hey,
Brock.
real quick. I just want to point this out. Over on Mr. Z's channel, Montessori Z, he's an alt history channel. He has a series that is an alternate history in which Hitler becomes a painter. It's really fucking good, by the way. Basically, Hitler becomes Indiana Jones. It's fucking awesome.
Interesting.
It's fucking great. It's like, wow. It's just fun. Becomes, and mind you, in this alt history, Tsar Nicholas survives the assassination by the British.
Based. It wouldn't be Indiana Jones, it would be Vienna Jones.
Vienna Jones. I like that. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Mitch is just sitting over here like, holy shit, this dude knows how to fucking go full kilter. Holy shit.
All I've learned is you really hate the British.
I'm beginning to think that Poe was understating matters when she said you could get very autistic at times.
We're on Discord. It's kind of necessary if you use Discord in particular.
That's true.
No normal person uses Discord.
Unfortunately.
Give me a second. I need to do something real quick. I'll be right back.
No worries.
This is the difference. This is that some people have historical autism, and then I'm the one that more likes the individual stories. Like, again, the man who got shot in the balls and like, you know what? I want to do this again. And goes on to live till 82 years and become like one of the best men in the war.
Mm-hmm.
Reading J.R.R. Tolkien and Hitler in World War I.
Well, and here's the thing. And yes, I have a very deep seated the past year, the more I have learned, the more that my eyes have been open to European scummery, the more I'm just like, no, I don't fucking like you people. And like what I was telling Poe earlier, like and Mitch Hunter, Stoner. I don't know if you guys are English descendant, but I have seen so many English descendants in the United States being like, "Oh, why are we dogging on Europe? You know, why are we being antagonistic towards Europe? You know, we're all European, blah, or European descendants, blah blah blah." And it's like, no, they fucking hate you. They fucking despise you. They want to conquer you. Like, what do you fucking mean? They don't like you. They think you're dirty fucking dirt under their boots.
The one thing I love throwing up to people at times, especially the English, to troll them, is to remind them, hey, you remember that little thing back during the American Revolution called King's Mountain? Said, some of my Irish and Scottish ancestors came down out of the woods to give the British Army a warm greeting that day.
What is King's
See, and
Mountain?
Go ahead, Mitch.
Well, you mean King's Mountain?
Yeah, what is that?
That was a battle out in like western North, in like the mountain foothills out in western North Carolina. It's actually rather close to the route for Interstate 85. But basically, there was a brigade of the British Army that ended up coming up the area and camping for a period of time on this one hill called King's Mountain. The local Irish and Scotch settlers in the area, who had no particular love for the British Army given past history, decided to come down out of the hills and pay them a visit, and they wiped out that brigade to a man.
Nice.
Well, and I will expand even further. Look at my family history. I literally have. My family is Jacobites. We literally fought the British for control over the British crown. Like I have no love for the English whatsoever. That's just in my fucking blood. And it's like I already had within the family psyche, like we've maintained a little bit of the family psyche of, we don't really like the English. Since the beginning of last year, that has just ramped up fucking to 11 in my brain. Like, it's just like, no, you don't get to live. You don't get to survive. Fuck your people. And these assholes here in the U.S. that keep pounding this drum, and mind you, they're all ethno-nationalists. They're all ethno-nats. And it's like, no, go fuck yourselves. If you're so in love with your European heritage, fucking move back over there. Suffer like the rest of them. What we would refer to these people as would be loyalists, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, I do love the bullshit that's been floating around. Like, there's been a lot of Europeans that have talked shit because so many people in the Americas died during the revolution and whatnot, and like, oh, the British didn't really lose it. A European power didn't really lose this, blah blah blah. It's like, motherfucker, 150 plus thousand people dying from disease is not the same as us bushwhacking multiple fucking armies of theirs. Oh, by the way, if you actually look at the military losses, you realize really quickly we stopped the fucking British pretty good.
Which also, there's the one anecdote that I've heard over the years that early on in the Revolution, that during one battle, one British Army officer made the comment that how well the Continental Army was fighting, and our officer made the comment, said, "Good Lord, so these guys fight as good as the British." And one of his other officers looked at him, that's because they are British, you dumbass.
Well, no, we're not. Not anymore, bitches.
Yeah. And that's the one thing. One side of the family is Irish and Scotch. The other side of the family is German and Dutch with a little bit of Cherokee thrown in. If you're British, don't fuck with me.
Honestly, as far as I know, all I know is that I'm Italian, a bit of Irish, and Scottish.
Based.
I'm Irish, Scottish, and fucking Italian. You know,
I'm
I don't even lay claim to the quote unquote English part of my family because it was the English part of the family marrying into the French part. So I'm like, no, I'm fucking French. Like at the end of the fucking day, I'm French on that portion. Like,
You'd
period.
rather be French, damn.
Yeah. For me, I'm about 50% English, 25% Scottish, and 25% Irish.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
He lives in Montreal. He gets a pass.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, you live in Canada?
Yeah.
That's
Kind of. My family left that shithole long ago.
The 13th colony gets a pass, or the 14th colony. My bad.
Yeah.
The 14th colony gets a pass, which is hilarious. Which is the fucking hilarious part about it, because I feel more of a kinship to the Quebecois than I do to the Canadians in like the Ontarians, because it's like, no, go fuck yourselves, bud.
Yeah.
Fucking, you know what's hilarious? You guys see those videos of them emptying like American liquor and whatnot out of their stores and shit and throwing it away? Hey, fun fact, liquor sales, the shit's already been paid for.
Yep.
The Canadian government's already paid for it. So you're literally throwing out shit you already paid for.
Yep.
So it's like, we don't care. Go ahead and throw it out. Like, whatever. You guys buy it. You have to buy it in such bulk in order to make it reasonable to pay the fucking taxes on it, that you buy so much. You've already bought so much that we don't give a shit. So it's like, okay, cool. You're not going to be buying American liquor anymore. Fucking more for the rest of the world that fucking loves the shit. Fucking have I told you guys about the bourbon fever that's currently going on in Mexico?
Based.
Apparently there's a huge bourbon fever going through Mexico right now, just like the gin craze in fucking the UK, for example, back in the day.
Right.
There's a bourbon craze where American bourbon is fucking flying off the shelves in Mexico because they're like, oh, this shit's fucking delicious.
It is.
And it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Though it is unfortunate that now I'm going to have to ration my dwindling supply of bourbon even further.
Well, you know,
at least until
you're saying that smuggling is an option, sir.
Yeah.
Not with
I'm going to have to ration my remaining bottle of Booker's for a lot longer than I thought I'd have to.
Oh, okay. So first off, Dale.
God damn it! I think some of my ancestors were moonshiners and bootleggers, so maybe I can help you out.
What were you about to say, Mike?
I was just gonna say real quick. It's like, first off, why are you drinking anything other than Woodford? But that's just me.
Woodford's good, but
honestly,
I prefer cask strength or barrel proof, and Booker's is one of the better barrel proof bourbons.
I understand, but after trying Woodford, I'm like, actually, I'm probably never drinking another bourbon again.
Fair enough.
I bought a bottle because my former roommate, he was big into Maker's Mark.
That's good too.
And yeah, it's good. But then I introduced him to Woodford. He's never buying Maker's Mark ever again. He fell in love with Woodford.
I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to alcohol, I don't drink it that often, and I used to kind of drink it here and there, but since my brother was an alcoholic, cut that out by the way if you're still recording. My brother was an alcoholic. I can't drink much because if he's in the house, we don't want him to get back into his old habits. So I like rarely drink anymore. From what I remember, I was kind of a weenie when it came to my drinks, but when I did drink, like the big drinks, I was a whiskey guy.
Based.
So personally, I'm a Jameson, Woodford Reserve, and I forget the name of the Scotch off the top of my head, but there's a Scotch that my dad introduced me to.
Is
It's an Australian. It's an Australian Scotch. It's from Tasmania. I don't remember what it's called.
Interesting. I've never heard of Australian Scotch before.
Yeah, that shit was pretty fucking solid. I will give it that. You know, clearly the Tasmanians know how to make Scotch.
Mm-hmm. As do the
Did
Japanese.
Did the devil make this? Did the devil make this Scotch?
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Well, if the Canadians want to go I'm not that big. Never have really gotten any kind of hard liquor really. So if Canadians want to, pour out the stuff they already paid for, meh. But if I hear they're getting around to where they're committing the sin of pouring out hard cider, I'm calling up some of my friends that are still on the boomer boats in the U.S. Navy, and we're breaking out the nukes.
Hey, I gotta agree with you. Being an Irishman, my ciders are king. They are king.
Yeah.
I really shouldn't. I really do want to drink here and there again. It's just, it's kind of hard because of my situation.
Yeah.
I do like drinking on occasion, though. I just drink very rarely, though.
Yeah,
it's
unfortunate. We're getting rid of both the best whiskeys, the best alcohols, and the best wines, both American. The only thing we really have that can compete is beer. We do have good beer here, but that's all.
Well, and here's the whole thing. Here's the whole thing is that it's like, okay, Canada, being like, oh, we're going to put tariffs on the U.S. It's like, okay, cool. Like, we do not care at all because it's like, fine, fucking pay those tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
Pay the fucking tariffs, bitch, because you're gonna have to send your fucking oil and gas through the U.S. You're gonna have to send your fucking you're gonna have to fucking export your fucking lumber and shit here because where's the market for it, bud? It's the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So congratulations, you're just fucking yourselves by further restricting what the fuck you're gonna be able to fucking sell the United States, and then on top of that, we're not buying shit from you. If you're gonna fuck around and not fucking come to the table on shit, like it's hilarious for me because it's like I know a couple guys that are in they're big in the construction industry, like they do some big shit, and ever since like in their industry, like they were, when I last talked to them, this was right after fucking Trump signed a bunch of the deregulation bullshit. Mm-hmm. To actually fucking open up the market for like lumber and other shit like that. They're fucking ecstatic because they're like, no, we would much rather import shit from fucking Washington and from fucking Minnesota and from fucking Montana and other places like that because fuck Canadian lumber. Because and this is a thing that my brother also fucking has told me, that you have lumber coming from Canada because it's been sitting on trucks or sitting in yards or whatever, and it's warped to shit back. They're like, you bring in a fucking load of 2x4s, for example. I'm just gonna use them as an example. You bring in a load of fucking 2x4s, and it's like 50% of them are fucking unusable. They're like, fuck it, like. We get better results out of our own lumber anyways. We would much rather our lumber be cheaper by expanding production and expanding deregulation than fucking worrying about buying from the fucking Canadians. And then the same thing about the steel. People are like, no, we would much rather buy fucking U.S. steel than buying it from fucking overseas. Because from overseas, you start looking at it, you actually start analyzing the fucking steel, and you're like, there's microfractures all over this shit.
Oh, just an aside, speaking from personal experience, if you ever have to buy any lumber from Lowe's, pick out each one of the boards or each one of the pieces by hand, and then you'd best be prepared to let it sit someplace and let all the moisture from all the pressure treatment chemicals in it dry out for about 2 or 3 weeks before you go frigging using it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's and that's the hilarious part about it is like these people do not understand what the fuck is actually going on.
Well, yeah, no shit. You've seen Canada. You see fucking Justin Trudeau. They keep fucking voting him in. Of course they don't know what the fuck what's going on.
Yeah, the Canadians in that case have the same problem that many of the states here in the United States do. You have one or more large blue cities in the midst of what is otherwise a red state, but they have so many people in them blue cities that they end up deciding who gets elected.
Yep.
It's like a California moment, really.
Unfortunately.
So if you obviously don't agree with Justin Trudeau, you know, because obviously he hasn't exactly done a well job making Canada quite a good place.
No.
Good luck. He's resigning, but I don't know who they're bringing in next. Probably something just as bad.
So
Rock out of
Christian,
my driveway would be a better choice.
oh hey, Mitch, hold on, real quick. Mitch, I'm gonna mention a name that you're well aware of. Chrystia Freeland is running for the new premiership.
Yeah.
Oh God, the head Nazi herself.
So currently it looks like it might be going to someone named Mark Carney, but it's yet to be decided. Like Freeland is in the race. I think she's currently polling second for his replacement, but it's still anyone's game at this point.
God help them if they pick Chrystia Freeland, because she was basically Trudeau's right-hand person and was just as neck deep in all of the mess that went on with the truckers convoy 3 years ago as Trudeau was.
And she's Queen Ukraine all the way through.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I remember right, she was a member of the WEF Young Leaders Club along with Trudeau.
Yep.
Well, okay, I don't put any stock in that anyways, because most of the people that are put on that list, there's a few that are definitely there on purpose, but a lot of them are literally put there by the WEF themselves. Like, those people might not even fucking attend the WEF, and they'll put them on there.
But given what it's seen of Chrystia Freeland,
oh yeah, she's a card carrying member.
Yeah, she drank the Kool-Aid in that regard.
Oh no, she is definitely a card carrying member.
Yeah.
Oh, fun fact. You know who's currently... So that Mark Carney guy, who's currently in the lead for the leadership race, do you know what he did before this? From 2013 to 2020, he was the governor of the Bank of England.
Oh, fuck, it's that guy?
Yeah, before that, he was the governor of the Bank of Canada.
Oh. I thought I recognized his name.
You're getting him on another one. You're gonna make him more mad.
Oh no. Here's the thing: is like, dude, the Bank of England, like right now, Jamie Dimon, and the whole saga of Jamie Dimon is fucking fascinating, because everybody assumed that Jamie Dimon was just another one of these fucking WEF fucking shills, yada yada yada. And then all of a sudden, he comes out of fucking left field and says some shit about Nikki Haley. And everybody was like, oh, wait, okay. Maybe he's more of a neocon, because the neocons and the neoliberals, the WEF is more neoliberal than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, well, maybe he's more of a neocon. Like, it really threw everybody for a fucking loop, because they're like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden, Nikki Haley gets knocked out in the primary, and he immediately throws his support behind Trump, and everybody's like, huh? And I just love it because me and other people who, you know, have been following the whole situation with Jamie Dimon and Jerome Powell and a few others were just like, oh, that's what's going on. And fucking Tom, I can imagine Tom that night's just sitting there smoking his cigar like, oh, it's good to be king. Yeah, no, fucking anybody associated with the Bank of England, that's a, oh, good luck, have fun. Hope you enjoyed having a country.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, you guys were a colony, never mind. No, that's honestly, it's like the more I learn about this shit, the more I learn about Canada and the more I learn about the British and Canada is nothing more than a fucking resource piggy bank for the UK. That's all Canada is. That's why you guys aren't allowed to exploit shit in Canada. Because it all has to be saved for the homeland.
Aw. Here's a nice little headline from the Daily Mail. The British are calling for J.D. Vance to apologize over shameful troop comments. Smallest violin in the world.
Wait. What comments?
Said basically he made the comment during an interview with Sean Hannity about something about, you know, Europeans' idea of putting 20,000 troops, you know, only putting 20,000 troops as peacekeepers into Ukraine from countries that hadn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years. And the British thought he was referring to them, and they've gotten all butthurt about it.
Well, if the shoe fits.
Well, they're pointing out, oh, but we helped you out in Iraq and Afghanistan, and all, both Iraq wars and Afghanistan, yada yada like that. And it's like,
well,
dude, wasn't just referring to you; he was referring to all of freaking Europe. Yeah.
That would be the statement I would put out as JD Vance. I'm like, just so the Daily Mail is aware and the British government are aware. I was referring to all of Europe, not just you.
But I mean, if the shoe fits, I mean, hey, if you want to take an assault to that, I mean, fits and all that.
Hey, no, as I said, if the shoe fits, if the shoe fits.
And it very much does.
Like that, man. I wasn't even talking about. I was just talking about all of Europe. Self-reported like that. My fault.
Hey, Cinderella apparently is a whiny bitch. I'm just saying. Your princess is not in this castle, Mario. Fucking Christ. And it really does really paint the picture that, you know, they are reduced to nothing but naming and shaming and trying to bully and whatnot. Like, that's what they're reduced to. Also, by the way, so Mitch, you might be able to confirm this a little bit. I'm not sure. But do the British have any of their own subs?
Do they still have any of them?
Yeah.
Yes, last I know they have.
No. Are they? What I'm intending to ask is do they have any subs that aren't American made?
Well,
obviously not. You've seen their beans and toast. You think they eat subs?
They built the hall and all like that, but a lot of the equipment from us, in particular, like Trident missiles, are American equipment. But they did, I don't know about their newest, like 4 ballistic missile submarines and their newest fast attacks. But it has been, they built their own hulls and basically they developed their own propulsion plants. But the weapons, at least the ballistic missile subs, they used our ballistic, sea-launched ballistic missiles like Poseidon and Trident missiles. They did have developed their own torpedoes as far as the actual like electronics and sonar. Again, I'm thinking that was pretty much their pick on them there, but yeah, they
So,
did get a lot of help as far as at least their ballistic missile
so
subs.
basically, what you're saying is that their subfleet literally hinged on the United States. That's funny. Talking a lot of shit for somebody who can't build their own submarines.
Yeah, like you said, they built the hulls for their own design, and it was built over UK shipyards. But yeah, a lot of the stuff, especially when you're talking about the ballistic missile subs, a lot of it came from us. But now, if you want to have the other thing to where not just how many subs they still have left, but how many are still operational and not
Well,
sitting in a dockyard for like 4 years.
well, hey! Those Challenger 2s make very nice paperweights.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of
Now,
ironic
have
they're
I-
named after the one shuttle that blew itself up.
Actually, have I ever told you guys the story of why the Challenger fleet is like so decrepit at this point in time?
No. Why?
All right, so what you end up having is that back in the day, you had two companies that were responsible for the majority of the building of the Challenger, and that was Rolls-Royce and Royal Ordnance. And as such, those two companies were the linchpin of the Challengers. Well, about 10 years ago now, the Challenger 2s were due for refit. Updating and refurbishing and just making sure they're up to date and they're good to go, right? Well, here's the problem. The British sold Rolls-Royce and Royal Ordnance to fucking Rheinmetall. You know, the company responsible for producing Leopards? Yeah, they did that. And now the British are being forced to basically adopt the Leopard. They literally, they don't have any. I think last time I checked, they had one operational battalion.
How many tanks is in a battalion?
Under British force structure, I believe it's 15. Because an armor battalion, generally speaking, has 10 to 15 tanks, and then it has one or two platoons of mechanized infantry.
Voice chat. If you think the Challenger is something else, see how they load their gun, how they load the main cannon on that some bitch.
Well, okay, yeah, no, honestly speaking, there's nothing wrong with that. Honestly speaking, there's nothing wrong with it. The problem is that they can't even refurb the tanks that they have. That's the whole point, is that they can't even maintain and refurbish the vehicles that they already have, and now they're being forced to adopt a whole new vehicle that they have to train on. The Challenger, they've been using it since what, the fucking 70s?
And therein lies one of the problems too. The main problem with the gun is the British haven't produced any new ammunition for those guns in like over 20 years. And the ammunition they do have is expired.
Yep. But no, that's the glorious part about the European struggle, is that and mind you, Rheinmetall isn't better off by any stretch of the imagination. Look at the situation with the Leopards. They can't keep enough Leopards in rotation for training because they're trying to adopt the Leopard A7, for example, but they only have one I want to say it's 1 battalion. It might be 1 regiment, but I think it's only 1 battalion's worth. But they don't have enough tanks to train all of their crews on. So they have all their guys still running Leopard 2 A5s, but then they're training on the A7s, or A6s, my bad. They have A6s. They're training them on the A7s, all while they're talking about adopting the Panther, the KF-51, which then it's like, okay, so you're dropping production of the Leopard completely? Oh, no. We're still producing the Leopard, but we're going to force the government to adopt a new tank at the same time that they're still training all of their crews on the Leopard A7. It's like, okay, I guess. And it's all because these idiots are trying to develop a weapon system with a bigger gun. And it's like, okay, well, your big gun is nice and everything, and it looks very, 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 very girthy and very, very sturdy. However,
They're trying to make a Metal Gear in real life, not realizing that it might even be the most practical thing.
but, I raise you Orlan. I raise you Gram. I raise you Shahid. Like, sorry, your tank doesn't matter to my fucking drone. Fuck you.
Yeah. Oh, here's another little interesting headline I just come across here. Don't know validity, says it's from the Irish Star, but it says Vladimir Putin agrees to broker talks between Donald Trump and Iran.
Yeah,
Well,
I
that's
heard
the
about
thing
that.
is, so, and actually, I want to kind of get into Iran a little bit because I did bring up the whole reformist thing earlier, and I kind of want to expand on that. So here's the thing: is I forget the Iranian president that died. Like literally, this guy was so irrelevant to my life prior to all this bullshit that I just can't remember the guy's Khomeini or whatever the fuck his name was.
Yeah, Khomeini.
Or no, I don't remember. And no, Khomeini is the supreme leader guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
I don't fucking remember. Too many fucking names to try to keep track of. Anyways, point is, so right now there's this, you have the president die in a very mysterious fashion. Nobody's not there's no like clear indication on what the fuck happened, and everybody is kind of scratching their heads like, okay, clearly something nefarious fucking happened here. And, automatically everybody started blaming the Jews, of course. But I think that was the whole point. I think literally everybody wanted it to be the Jews for one reason and one reason only. Because then it distracts away from the fact that right now, Iran is going through a soft revolution where you literally have the current government, the mullahs, are being challenged almost across the board by what we're referring to as the reformists. Oh, by the way, the new president is a reformist.
Mm-hmm.
So across the board, the indications, at least on the surface, are that this poor, fun little place called Iran is possibly going to go through another revolution. And, well, as I stated earlier, the reformists are backed by the fucking Russians. Per my understanding, the current president of Iran has been in Moscow plenty of times. I wonder why he's in Moscow. So it's very much a very fun potential. And hold on, I'm getting into my car real quick. Oh, come on. I know I have a power brick in here. At least I thought I did. Huh. I thought I had that in here. Oops. Okay, weird. Sorry, I was looking for something, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. Okay, well. But the point is that it's like, oh, what happens if the mullahs are replaced within the Iranian government, and all of a sudden Iran isn't, hardcore theocracy anymore?
would be pretty great.
I'm just gonna say, all of a sudden, a bunch of neocon and British talking points end up going bye-bye very quickly. Oh, and the Israelis will be big mad as well, but, whatever.
Mhm.
Like, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna give the Israelis a black eye or anything, but, you're sorry, your opinion is less than fucking important to me. Like, let's face it. Like, sorry, like, you're a little city state basically that makes the U.S. a lot of money. That's all I really care about from you. Oh God, that piss. See, that's the thing is I've pissed off plenty of Israelis by being like, honestly speaking, as long as you guys keep making money for me, I don't care. Like I just don't. Once you stop making money, then I'll start caring because it's like, well, okay, now you're a liability, and it's like, do I really want to support you anymore? Yeah. And then they get all big mad.
Well, Dale, you got anything you want to say in regards to that?
I'm curious, how do they make the U.S. money?
Technological and military developments.
Huh.
So,
Well, aren't the military developments mostly just the U.S. giving them their own money?
no. So what it is that, like, say for example, the F-35.
Mhm.
So I actually found this out through a source of mine that I trust explicitly. His name's Halsey. Found this out through him. And yes, he's a Jew. But he gave me insight into the fact that the F-35 program, the only reason why the F-35 actually happened was because of the Israelis. And
what did they do?
Basically the entire electrical system of the plane.
Mhm.
Basically the electrical system was a hard fucking no for Lockheed Martin. They couldn't fucking figure it out, and Lockheed Martin didn't want to bring in a second U.S. company because reasons. And so they decided to go to the next best thing, which was the Israelis, and the Israelis got it figured out in like 6 months. And then the Israelis, like, for example, Iron Dome initially started as a U.S. project that then the Israelis were able to figure out, get it working properly, and then they bought a shit ton of it. And so on and so forth. So overall, if you, and I err on the side of, on the conservative side, you can basically guarantee that any amount of money that we give Israel, we will make $3 back on the dollar. So it's a case of like, oh yeah, okay, fine. If you're making us money, I don't care. Cool, whatever. We'll keep throwing projects your way, because here's the thing, and a lot of people don't know this either, and I found this out through Halsey, that any technological developments that are joint between the Israelis and the Americans, and a few, and actually, let me rephrase it. Any technological developments that the Israelis make with U.S. money in any way, shape, or form, the Americans own the patent to it. So, like, for example, Iron Dome, we own the patent to it. The F-35, we own the patent to it. We, any number of systems that the Israelis have worked on, we own the patents to them. So it's a very beneficial relationship for the U.S. It's not too beneficial for the Israelis, because the Israelis, they have to buy these products from the Americans. They can't build them themselves. They have to buy them. But, sorry, like, thanks for doing business? Like, whatever. But no, that's the whole point, is that at the end of the day, it's like, as long as they're not a liability to us, I don't care. As soon as they become a liability, then it's like, okay, well, get up, scamper, get out of here. Like, and I'm not gonna play this religious game. Like, I don't have time for fucking religious dogma. If the Zionists want to bitch that, I'm a fucking Nazi and shit like that, then okay, cool, whatever,
Yeah.
Mute. Like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
can just mute you all.
You certainly gave them some ammunition with your desire to go back in time and talk to Hitler.
Well, hey, you know what? If I can keep Hitler from killing a bunch of Jews, then that's a win for them. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Like, hey, in the context. See, if they want to take me out of context, then fine, go ahead, be little bitches. But in the context, I'm saving Jews by getting rid of Himmler and Goebbels.
True.
Okay.
Because here's the fucked up part. Here's the fucked up part. This is how hilarious the transfixing that they do on Hitler is. That okay, go back in time, kill Hitler. What does that do? It doesn't change anything. Himmler and Goebbels will find a new figurehead. They'll just find another guy to put up on stage. And thus it doesn't change a fucking thing.
All right, well, Howard, I gotta ask.
Go ahead.
I know someone out there is probably thinking this too. How trustworthy are people that run an ethno-state, really?
Well,
I mean, sooner or later, they're going to turn around and bite us in the ass.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Do you trust the Koreans? Do you trust the Japanese?
I trust them a little bit more.
Well, then your whole ethno-state statement doesn't fucking make sense. Because if you trust the Japanese and the Koreans, they literally run ethno-states.
Well, I
I trust them a little bit more because they.
I don't trust the Koreans. I'm gonna be honest with the Japanese.
I
Well, the last time I checked, at least the Japanese and the Koreans don't have a little book where they call people outside their race subhumans.
Well, so actually, if I could interject for a second,
Oh,
I'd say I would trust the Japanese and the Koreans in matters not relating to their specific state. But like, say for example, you went to Japan and you asked, hey, some Japanese person who's very pro-Japan, hey, what did you do in Korea and China in, like, I don't know, the 1920s, 30s, and 40s? And they probably say, oh, nothing bad. Like,
well, yeah, whatever.
You know,
and again,
yeah.
I'm like, whatever to that. No, the point is that at the end of the day, the ethno-state thing doesn't really matter.
Right.
Like, it just really doesn't matter. Now, then to comment on the Talmud, because that's what, he was referring to, you have to understand what the Talmud actually is. First off, the whole, Jesus is in hell burning an excrement, it's not actually in the Talmud. It's not there.
Well, actually, I can cite you the actual passage where it is. I've you can look up.
So
Talmud.
you read Aramaic?
No, but there are translations. Like, you can read English translations from Jewish sources that mention
That's the problem. That's the problem, is that there's every translation that I've seen, I've managed to track back to a group that benefits from slandering the Talmud. And that's the problem. Is I rely very heavily on Halsey in this regard, because at the end of the day, Halsey, if Tom Luongo, who, let's face it, at this point in time, Tom is probably one of the most reliable fucking sources of information on the net. Yeah, he'll get some details wrong, but generally speaking, he's over the target. He imagine as a bomber. You're over the city, he might be a mile to the left or something on a particular thing, but he's over the fucking target. the same thing I can say about Halsey. Halsey has, like, all the information that I've gotten from Halsey has been good. It's all fucking checked out. And it's like, okay, if Halsey is fucking saying it's not there, that it doesn't exist.
Halsey is a Zionist, correct? Like, is he?
Technically speaking.
Is it to his benefit to push that narrative that it doesn't exist? Like,
but the problem is that then at that point in time, and here's the point. At that point in time, then you can't trust anything out of the Bible. You can't trust anything out of the Quran, because at that point in time, and this is the thing, you know, I've pushed back on people very heavily in the Jewish spaces, for example, because certain sections of the Quran that they will cite, I will go look at my English translation of it, and I'm like, well, this is what it says, and I can take this in multiple different ways. And if I'm, you know, actually a Muslim, I'm going to take it in this fashion versus, and honestly speaking, being completely ignorant, you know, mostly ignorant, you know, I'd say I'm about 25% on the Muslim faith overall. Like nothing in those verses, and I believe it was 162, and something else. There was a couple that they fucking threw at me. Like none of them were like nefarious. Nothing jumped out to me as like crazy.
The one that I like, I'll admit there have been some things I've seen where it's kind of debatable what it's actually saying, but the one I'm referring to specifically is from its passage Gittin 57a. That's the one directly says Jesus is in hell boiling in excrement. And like,
well, and I would love, if you want to,
like I
tomorrow
post it in the chat.
Oh, real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. Tomorrow there's going to be a space between Halsey and Andrew Wilson. You're more than welcome to fucking come in and talk to Halsey about it.
All right.
But at the same time, like again, if he says that it's not fucking there, and that, you know, it's a fucking meme that's been pushed by, you know, by anti-Zionist Christians and shit like that, then I'm like, I'm gonna err on the side of you, bud, because I know you.
I've seen like videos of rabbis in Israel confirming that it's there and that's actually what it says. Like I've seen numerous.
I'm gonna say this. By the way, you have to understand. I'm saying this as a anti-Zionist Christian. Like I'm going to err on the side of the Zionist because I'm like, honestly speaking, I don't know. I haven't been able to track down a decent, like, and that's the thing is that Aramaic, because it's the written language, it's not the spoken language. And that's the problem is that you have in the Jewish language, you have two languages. I forget what the spoken language is called
Hebrew.
off the top of my head, but
Hebrew.
Well, no, there's another name for it. But you have the spoken language, and then you have the written language, which is Aramaic. Which then it's like, okay, well, if you can't speak Aramaic because it's the written language, then at that point in time, like, honestly speaking, there could be horrible translations to it. To be frank, like let's be honest. Look at the translations of fucking hieroglyphs. Like we take these we take these huge guesstimates on what the hieroglyphs mean, and then, you know, we look at stuff like the Mesopotamians and we start trying to translate that shit. Well, then we realize, like, oh wait, you know, the Mesopotamian language is, you know, this plus this plus this. And then you go back to Sumerian language and you're like, oh, wait, you know, then there's this. There's, honestly speaking, at the end of the fucking day, there's a lot of languages you can't get concise translations of. A lot of them. And it's kind of like with fucking carbon dating. You know, we now have solid proof that carbon dating is complete bullshit. And now we're sitting here questioning, like, okay, wait, is there a possibility that Homer and Aristotle and all these other guys, maybe they were a lot older, you know, where they, you know, 3,000 or were they 4,000 years before us? And that's where, and all of this culminating into this mass confusion because we're all from different groups. We don't know. And that's my whole point, is that I'm going to err on the side of, well, I don't fucking know. And this guy is telling me this, and these guys over here are telling me this, but these guys are trying hardcore to do this thing, whereas this guy isn't. And say what you will about Halsey being a Zionist, but at the same time, he's not sitting there being like, oh, the U.S. has to stay dedicated to Israel and it has to do this, it has to do this. Yeah. He's not saying that. He's like, if the U.S. stays dedicated to Israel, then cool. If it doesn't, then whatever. Well, like, he's kind of got a middling position to it.
Let me ask you this. Would you say that Hasidic Jews are in some way and have some sort of bias towards or against Jews and would want to push that narrative that they believe Jesus is in hell?
Well, okay, Hasidic Jews?
Yeah. Do you think do you think that group is such a group that would like to push that narrative?
Well, seeing as the Hasidic Jews are anti-Israel.
But they're not anti-Jew.
No, the point is the Hardim are anti-Israel. And Zionism is the preservation of Israel. So, like, that's the thing, is like, if the Hasidic Jews have it, then that means the Hardim are, there's a quantifiable difference between the Hardim and Zionists.
Right.
Because the reason why the Hardim live here in the United States is because they don't want anything to do with Israel. That's why they live here. So if the Hardim have that in their writings, then, well, okay, but I've also not seen proof that is actually there.
Well, so the official website for the Hasidic Jews, chabad.org, has a translation of the Talmud that's annotated in both English and Aramaic. And I posted it in the chat. It specifically says this. It specifically, in that passage, and then it goes out of the way to annotate it's referring to Jesus himself who's in hell.
Chill.
Yeah.
Well, chill out. Chill out for a fucking second. I was outside hitting my vape. Let me come inside and actually look at it.
All right. And yes, this isn't, for the record, this isn't some random website. This is their official website. They seem to be saying this, which is
hold on.
Like, this is why I do have to question the motives of anyone I hear who denies this stuff, because like, this passage is so blatantly obvious in what it's saying that if you're questioning it, I think either you don't know what you're talking about or you're dishonest. You're just lying. And I'm happy to bring it up with him on that space because it's so blatantly obviously there. And I get why they would want to, cover that up, because historically, whenever the Talmud gets translated into non-Hebrew languages, pogroms pop up because the Christians are so infuriated by what it says about them. They just start killing a whole bunch of Jews. So I understand why they want to cover that up, but...
Hold on. So, Onkelos then went and raised Jesus of Nazarene from the grave through necromancy. Onkelos says to him, who is the most important of the world where you are now? Jesus said to him, the Jewish people. Onkelos asked him, should I then attach myself? Should I attach to them? Okay, wait, okay, so...
It's the second paragraph that matters.
No, okay, so is the black text... the black text is what's written in Aramaic.
Yes.
Am I guessing?
Yes.
Okay, so hold on. I want to avoid the annotations for a second.
All right.
Went raised Jesus the Nazarene through necromancy. Said to him, "Who is important in that world said to him, the Jewish people, should I attach to them? Said to him, their welfare you shall seek, their misfortune you shall not seek. Anyone who touches them as if you were touching the apple of his eye, said to him, what is the punishment of that man? With boiling excrement, as the master said, anyone who mocks the words of the sages will be sentenced to boiling excrement. Come see the difference between the sinners of Israel and the prophets of the nations of the world. See, I don't think that's what it's saying. I don't think that's what it's saying. Okay. So you actually have a hard misunderstanding of what it's saying. Because here's the thing is you have to read it without the annotations and with the additional text in order to kind of get, it's kind of like with abandon all hope, ye who enter. You know, there's some literal stuff going on there, but then you have to also understand that there is some indirect. So what this is actually saying, and if I'm understanding it from the Jewish perspective, it is saying with boiling excrement for the sinners. And then as Balaam, if you read, the annotation at the bottom, as Balaam, who was a prophet, wished Israel harm, whereas Jesus the Nazarene, who was a Jewish sinner, sought their well-being. So what is actually saying is that Jesus himself is fine, that Balaam is the type of guy that would be boiling in hell and excrement. That's what it's saying.
Well, but what about the annotation where it says, like, in the second paragraph, Onkelos said to him, what is the punishment for the man? Then it says, a euphemism for Jesus himself in the next world.
Yes, because Jesus is a sinner.
So then Jesus replies, boiling excrement.
So, but that's the thing, is that what it's saying is, and again, Jesus is viewed as a sinner. So this is the whole thing. Like, okay, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is the man who came before. After resurrection, who is he? What does Jesus become after resurrection?
I'm not really following.
He is Christ. That's the point, is that Jesus is viewed as a sinner. He is viewed as a sinner within the Jewish doctrine because he spoke against Jewish doctrine. So he's considered a sinner.
All right. And so they do, and therefore his punishment, according to them, is to be boiled in excrement. But that's the thing, is that's for sinners. That's for people who sin. Right. So it does say what I was saying it says. It does say Jesus is in hell boiling in excrement.
But then you also have to
like
play it out.
I fully recognize that Jews do not believe in Jesus. But at the same time,
it's not that they don't believe in Jesus, it's that they view Jesus as a sinner.
Yes, they do not believe he was the Messiah. They do not believe he was God.
But then you have in the Christian faith, for example, people who sin go to hell. And
not
then
necessarily.
You have
No,
there is redemption. There is redemption only. There is redemption only within a certain confine.
Yes.
We're talking a very specific level of redemption. But anybody who sins goes to hell in the original dogma.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole point. Is so in reality, like, this is nothing more. Again, if Jesus is just seen as another Jew, which, by the way, that's what the Jews say, he's a Jew, which then I point out, yes. And then what is he after he becomes Christ? And then they lost their shit, by the way. They lost their fucking gourds on me. I had a fucking Christian calling me stupid over it, and I was laughing so hard. I'm like, so you recant your God? Thank you for letting me know. and here's the point: is that I'm going to push back on Jewish shit. I'm going to push back on Christian shit. I'm going to push back on Muslim shit. But I'm also going to push back.
Just to confirm, are you saying that according to Christianity, Jesus only became Christ after being resurrected?
Reborn.
Yeah. I don't think that's
because
the case.
he was.
So Christ just means Messiah, and if you read the Gospels, they're calling him the Messiah far before he's ever crucified.
Yes, but he was. But that's the thing about and he was the Messiah because they viewed him as such. But was he performing the miracles before his resurrection?
Yes, way before. Like, all the miracles, actually every miracle he performed was before the resurrection. Were you unaware of that?
Wow, I'm fucking.
You need to brush up on your. On your Christianity, my friend.
Yeah, clearly.
I know that, and I'm not even a practicing Christian.
Okay,
if I remember correctly, the very first miracle that Jesus was recorded doing was turning water into wine at a wedding.
Yes. Like, he raised people from the dead before.
Okay, no, I'm sitting. No, I'm sitting here, and honestly, that's my fucking bad, because I'm sitting here rolling things through my fucking head, and I'm actually, like, trying to drum up all of this shit. Yeah, because you had, who was the blind guy who became one of the apostles? Because that happened, and basically all the apostles were. Are you thinking of Paul?
No.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's
Paul happened. Now Paul happened post resurrection.
Yes.
And then there was the guy with leprosy.
That was pre-resurrection, right? The leper.
No, I'm rolling. No, I'm drumming up all this shit, and I'm trying to remember it. Dude, I haven't fucking studied up on this shit in fucking years, because I haven't had the need to, and you know, it's only been within the past couple of years I've actually started getting into these fucking arguments.
Just to sum up, all the people that the apostles healed and all the miracles they did was after the resurrection. Everything that Jesus did was before it.
Yeah, okay, there you go. So then, but the fact of the matter is that the resurrection is a key portion of his ascendancy, and you know, at the end of the fucking day, and again, you know, you could also go you could go almost material world on it, and like look at it from a Warhammer 40k perspective. Funny enough, you guys do understand Warhammer 40k is basically a fucking is a dialogue on like Christian and Muslim and Jewish faith and whatnot. You do understand that, right?
I'm not well enough versed in it to say I do. The only thing I really know about Warhammer 40k is the God Emperor of Mankind.
Well,
and
yeah,
I only know that barely.
It's all a dialogue on it. There's a lot of different shit. Like for example, there's a lot to say that corn, for example, is almost an analogy for Islam, for example. And that Zinj, a lot of the things to do with Zinj has a lot to do with the mysticism that goes with Judaism. And then, you know, all the chaos gods can kind of, you know, refer to something or another. And then, you know, the Imperium, the God Emperor, you know, there's a lot, you know, again, they basically say that the guy was fucking Jesus Christ himself, and so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, there's a lot of a lot of different things within that. But the point is that, you know, you could also boil it down to, you know, across the board, you know, all this back and forth. Oh, shit, as I drop my phone.
Hey guys,
All
real,
this-
real quick, about 45 minutes before the speech right there. We've been,
Oh, shit.
been going since 6:30. I suggest if y'all want to take a break before the speech starts happening at 9 o'clock, you know, now would probably be a pretty good
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
All right, actually, yeah, that's gonna I'll probably do that because I am gonna want to try to figure out how to also include YouTube videos as well. So I will end this, and I'll get to figuring that before the show starts.
All right. Well, we can chill for a bit.
Yeah.